Hello students, this is Dinesh, chemistry faculty from RISE. Today we are going to discuss about crystal field theory, metal carbonyls. This topic is very important for the advanced point of view. Now let's begin. First, crystal field theory. This theory was proposed by Van Wyck, and this theory is used to explain the electronic structure of metal ion in the crystal lattice, and this was applied to the coordination compounds by Orgel. Then this theory will provide information about electronic transitions in the visible region. That's why we are able to see the colors of the metal complexes. Now let's go into this topic. If you are taking a d orbital is having, d subshell is having 5 orbitals. They are dxy, dyz, dzx, dx square minus y square and dz square. In the absence of ligand, all these 5 orbitals will have same energy. But in the presence of ligand, what will happen? Depending upon their orientation of the orbitals, they will have different energies. Those orbitals which are having orientation along the axis, they will have high energy or low energy depending upon the orientation of the ligands. That means in what way ligands are approaching. And one more thing we should remember, this crystal field theory is purely electrostatic. It does not explain about any bonding, unlike valency bonding theory. Okay. And one more thing, in this case, in this crystal field theory, we are having mainly 2 types of ligands. One is polar, second one is neutral, anionic and neutral. If you are taking a neutral ligand, it is having 2 poles like this, one positive and negative. Negative pole of the ligand is pointed towards the metal ion in the gaseous state. Okay. Now, if you are taking, see, in isolated free state, all the d orbitals, dxy, dyz, dx square minus y square, all of them are having same energy. We call that as degenerate orbitals. On the basis of the orientation of the d orbitals with coordinate axis, they are grouped into 2 sets. Already told you what are they? T2g and Eg. So what is Eg? Evenly degenerate. It contains 2 orbitals. They are dx square minus y square and dz square. Whereas if you are taking T2g orbitals, it is called as triply degenerate or non-axial. Why they are called as non-axial? Their orientation is in between the axis, whereas Eg orbitals are having orientation along the axis. So T2g orbitals, what are they? dxy, dyz and dxz orbitals as they lie in between the axis. These are the terminologies we will use. Now, crystal field effect in the octahedral coordinate entities. So, if you are taking octahedral complexes, how many ligands will be present? 6 ligands will be present. How they will be present? For example, if you are taking a metal, these are the ligands. They are present along the axis. See, they are like this, let us assume that 6 ligands are positioned symmetrically along the axis. As the ligands approach, what will happen? When the ligands are not approaching, in the absence of ligands, all the d orbitals are having same energy. We call that as degenerate orbitals. But once they are approaching, how they approach in the case of octahedral complexes? They approach along the axis. When they are approaching along the axis, then what will happen? The orbitals which are having orientation along the axis, they will gain more energy because of the repulsions, and whereas the orbitals which are having orientation between the axis, they will have lower energy. So we know that which are having orientation along the axis and between the axis, T2g is having orientation between the axis, whereas Eg is having orientation along the axis. So what will happen? Now see this. This is the d orbital. This is the d orbital in the absence of ligand. All the d orbitals are symmetrical. Now see, in the presence of ligand, what will happen? Symmetry is getting disturbing. Okay. Now, since the ligands are approaching along the axis, Eg is gaining more energy when compared to the T2g. Okay. We call this as barycenter. First electrons will enter into the T2g, then only they will enter into Eg. Okay. See, since why it will enter into the T2g first? Since T2g is having lower energy when compared to the Eg, first they will enter into the T2g, followed by they will enter into the Eg orbitals. Okay. Now, crystal field stabilizing energy. Now we can see that, we can see from the diagram clearly, see this. When the electrons are entering into the Eg orbital, we are taking it as plus 6 dq. It is the unit for crystal field energy. If the electrons are entering into the T2g, we are writing it as minus 4 dq. Now see this formula here. crystal field stabilizing energy CFSE. So delta naught. So what is delta naught? This O will explain that it is octahedral complex. It is equal to minus 4 into electrons in T2G plus 6 into electrons in EG dq. It is a unit. dq is the unit of crystal field stabilizing energy. Then what are the various factors affecting this crystal field stabilizing energy? It depends upon the nature of the ligand. It depends upon the metal also. For example, if the ligand whatever we are taking is a strong field ligand, means what? See here, for example, if you are taking, see this, in this case generally we are taking, but if you are taking some particular example, okay, depending upon the nature of the ligand, that extent of splitting will be vary. So if you see this series, we call this as spectrochemical series. So what is this series? In this series, ligands are arranged in the increasing order of their crystal field splitting energy. Extent of energy is more, extent of splitting will be more. If you see here, in the bottom we are having halogens, okay. Now in the top if you see, we are having cyanide and CO. So these are halide donors and oxygen donors, nitrogen donors, followed by carbon donors. Carbon donors are having highest energy. So this is called as spectrochemical series. The spectrochemical series is an experimental determined series. General order depends upon the donor atoms. Already told you, donor atoms. Carbon donor is greater than, nitrogen donor is greater than, oxygen donor is greater than halogens. Okay. So if a carbon donor like CN, CO are present, definitely they will have more splitting. Then there is a chance that pairing can take place against the Hund's rule also. Definitely, right? Now see this. High spin complexes are weak field ligands. Low spin complexes are strong field ligand. We already seen this series right now. Just now we discussed about the spectrochemical series. In that series, clearly we mentioned that the ligands are arranged in the increasing order of their crystal field energy. Now, if you are taking a strong field ligand, then what will happen? In the case of strong field ligand, pairing will take place. If it is present, pairing will take place against the Hund's rule. Against Hund's rule. For example, if a CN minus or CO is present, if you are taking some complex like CO, CN minus taken 6 times, here minus 3. Okay. Now if you are taking this complex, how will be the splitting? Splitting will be like this. Okay. Now this cobalt, it is having +3 oxidation state. So how many electrons are present in this? 6 electrons are present. Since its electronic configuration is 4s2 3d7. So if it is in the +3 oxidation state, 2 electrons from 4s2 and 1 electron from D will be removed. So 6 electrons are there. So so it is having D7 configuration. So where these 7 electrons are getting placed, this is T2G, this is EG. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Till here not a problem. Okay. 4th electron won't enter here and pairing will take place against the Hund's rule. Okay. 6 electrons will be placed here. 7th electron will go. Okay. Why? It is a strong field ligand. Pairing will take place against the Hund's rule. If you are taking a high spin complexes or weak field complexes, if delta naught is less than P, pairing energy, if delta naught is greater than pairing energy. Now see these two cases. Where we can see these two cases? See, depending upon the strength of the ligand. If it is a weak field ligand, then what will happen? If it is strong field ligand, what will happen? Now see. Already told you what is a, see this, high spin complex or weak field ligand, low spin complex or strong field ligand. See, if you are taking a strong field ligand, then pairing will take place against the Hund's rule. Example I gave you, CN, CO. Okay, these are strong field ligands. So example, if you are taking this, we will take one example for the weak field ligand, okay, or high spin complex, right? Now see this, we are having two cases here, when delta naught is less than P, when delta naught is greater than P. Where we can see this? Delta naught is less than P, this will happen only when the ligands are weak field. Delta naught is greater than P when the ligands are strong field. Okay. So in this case, pairing will not take place against the Hund's rule. Example we can take, example, manganese complex, hexa aqua manganese complex we are taking. Okay. In this case, manganese having 5 electrons, 5 unpaired electrons. In the absence of ligands, it will be like this. Its degeneracy is getting shifted in the presence of ligands and it is split into T2G and EG. So, we are having 5 electrons. First 3 electrons will go here. Then next 2 electrons will go to EG or T2G. Since it is a weak field ligand, next 2 electrons will go to EG. Okay, this is T2G. So, T2G3, EG2. Now, if delta naught is greater than P, where it will happen? If the ligand is a strong field, then only it will happen. Okay, it will happen when the ligand is strong field. Okay, in this case, what will happen? Pairing will take place against Hund's rule. Against Hund's rule. Okay. Generally, ligands like, what are the examples we can take? Ligands like Cn minus CO. If these ligands are present, then this type of pairing will take place. Okay. In this case, delta naught is greater than P. Already gave that example, one example there. That is, we can take here Fe Cn6 3 minus. It is best. In this case, we can see. Right. Next one, crystal field effect in a tetrahedral coordination entity. Now, in the earlier case, ligands are approaching along the axis. If the ligands are approaching between the axis, what will happen? Which d orbitals are having orientation between the axis? T2G. Whereas EG is having along the axis. So, we can easily expect that splitting will take place just opposite to the octahedral complexes. Then how will be the extent of splitting? It will be equal to the octahedral complex or it will be less than? Definitely it will be less than the octahedral complexes. Since in the case of octahedral complexes we are having 6 ligands, here we are having only 4 ligands. So definitely extent of splitting is very less when compared to the octahedral complexes. Okay, now see this. Coordination number. What is the coordination number? How many ligands are participating? Only 4. So coordination number is 4. T2G set have higher energy than EG. Okay, since why it is T2G is having a higher energy, I already told you that ligands are approaching between the axis, they are having more energy when compared to EG. And one more thing, crystal field splitting is less in a tetrahedral complexes as compared to the octahedral complexes, right? So see this, how much times it less? It is 4/9 times of delta naught. Now if you see this, these are the d orbitals in the absence of ligands. In the presence of ligands, its degeneracy is shifting. Then you can see splitting takes place. Here we can find T2G, on bottom side we can find EG. Why? T2G is having orientation between the axis, EG is having orientation along the axis, and ligands are approaching between the axis. Okay, so it is having more energy. This is T2, this is E. Okay, see this. This is barycenter. Crystal field stabilizing energy, CFSE, in the case of tetrahedral complexes. Clearly we can say, see this, how many electrons are entering? See, we can say that -6 into electrons entering into the EG plus 4 into electrons entering into the T2G. Okay, see this. Delta T CFSE is equal to 4 into electrons enters into T2 plus -6 into electrons enter into E, dQ, units for crystal field stabilizing energy. Okay. And one more thing, we should not use G for the tetrahedral complexes. Okay. Crystal field effect in a square planar coordination. See here, only in the advanced examination we will discuss about the crystal field splitting in the square planar complexes. In mains it is not there. Now we are taking a octahedral complex. Imagine metal is there and symmetrically ligands are placed. Okay. Now what we are doing? We are removing 2 ligands which are present along the z-axis. Okay. Then we will get, what will we get? We will get the square planar complex. Now see this. For example, this is an octahedral complex. If you imagine, these are the ligands. We are placing like this. These are the ligands. Imagine this is the z-axis. Now we are removing the ligands along the z-axis. Now whatever is remaining will give the square planar complex. What is the coordination number? Here also coordination number is 4. Which type of complexes will show? D8 complexes. Mainly only D8 complexes will show this type of complex. Generally we can't see square planar complexes. Okay. Common complexes are tetrahedral and octahedral. Okay. Square planar geometry is shown by only D8 complexes like platinum 2, okay, nickel 2, Au3. Now see this. Square planar coordination can be imagined to result when two ligands on the z-axis of an octahedron are removed. See here, they are removed from the complex, leaving only the ligands in the xy plane. As the z ligands move away from the ligands in the square plane, move a little closer to the metal. The orbital splitting diagram for the square planar coordination can be derived from the octahedral. How? As the ligands move away from the z-axis, the d orbitals with a z component will fall in the energy. See, I will show you in the diagram. See this. For example, if you see here, till here if you see, we will get the for octahedral complexes. This is T2 and this is Eg. Okay. Now, see, we are removing the z components, means dx square minus y square we are removing. It will have less energy. Now, what will happen? See this. It is having energy, very less energy when compared to dx square minus y square. In the T2g also we are having z components, dxz, dyz. See this. They are also reducing the energy. Okay. It is up to here, it is octahedral and this is square planar. Now see this. As the ligands move away along the z-axis, d orbitals with a z component will fall energy. That is, if you are taking dz square orbital falls the most. We can easily expect that. Why? We are removing the z components. So, definitely dz square will have lesser energy as the electrons are concentrated in the lobes along the z-axis. See here, if you are taking like this, if it is z-axis, they are having electrons concentrating along the z-axis. So, what will happen? Their energy will decrease. So, dz square is having very less energy. Along with that, we are having dxz and dyz, they are also having orientation between the axis, but they are having z component. Now see this, the dxz and dyz orbitals also drop in energy, but not as much when compared to dz square. Why? Dz square is directly moving along the axis, whereas dxz and dyz they are having orientation between the axis. That's why. Now this is the splitting, crystal field splitting for the tetrahedral complex. Okay, easily you can remember this. Just we have to keep it in the mind. First, it is like we have to take it as like octahedral splitting. From octahedral to square planar, we have to go. This is having highest energy, it is having lowest energy, and this is dxy. Stability of coordination in solution. In a solution, how can you explain the stability of the complex in a solution? There are two methods. Actually, there are two ways to explain the stability. One is thermodynamic stability, second one is kinetic stability. Thermodynamic stability means if you are speaking with respect to the bond strength, okay, and potentials of the metal ion, then it is with respect to the thermodynamic stability. With respect to the kinetic stability, if you are speaking rate of the reactions, okay, then according to the thermodynamic stability, a complex can be stable or unstable. If you are speaking with respect to kinetic stability, a complex can be labile or inert. Now see this, stronger is the metal ligand bond, less is the dissociation in the solution, and hence greater is the stability of the coordination compounds. If the bond between the metal and ligand is stronger, there are various factors which we are going to discuss. What are the various factors which affect the strength of the bond, metal ligand bond? Okay, we will discuss it. And in order to see, one more thing we have to learn here, we have to know about beta. Beta is called as overall stability constant. Okay, if a complex is forming, metal plus ligand gives metal ligand. If its stability constant is K1, metal ligand plus L gives Ml2. If it is K2, K2, so on, Ml n minus 1 if it is Kn. So what is beta? Beta is equal to K1 into K2 into so on Kn. Okay, this is called as overall stability constant. What about this K1, K2, Kn? They are called as stepwise stability constant. And if you are taking inverse of this, we will get instability constant. Okay, you should remember this. Okay, then if you are taking with respect to K1, K1 is equal to what? K1 is equal to concentration of Ml divided by concentration of M into concentration of L. Okay, see this. In this case, we are taking dissociation of tetraamine copper 2 complex. It gives Cu plus 2 and 4 moles of ammonia. For this is the stability constant. Okay, it is expressed as Ki is equal to copper ions, concentration of copper ion into concentration of ammonia divided by concentration of complex. Okay, now stability constant of the above complex, that is copper complex which we studied, is given by K is equal to, okay, this is called as instability constant. Greater is the stability constant, stronger is the metal ligand bond. Then what are the various factors affecting the stability? There are 3 factors: nature of the central ion, nature of the ligand, chelate effect. Now see, nature of the central ion. If a central ion is smaller and if it is having more charge, then definitely it is stable. Smaller and greater charge, greater oxidation state, definitely it will be more stable. See this, nature of the central ion. Higher the charge density on the central metal ion, the greater is the stability of the complex. Higher, smaller, both smaller size, higher charge. Okay. For example, if you are comparing Fe plus 2 and plus 3, see this, these having more charge, so it is more stable, right? So in this case we can see this, it is very high when compared to this, right? See what are the we are discussing about the stability of the complex ion in the solution. So in that, nature of the ligand, same like the metal, smaller the size of the ligand, greater the basic charge, okay, basic nature, more will be the stability of the complex. Greater the basic strength is the ease with which it can donate lone pair of electrons, and therefore greater is the stability of the complex, right? And also one more thing, here if you are taking a ligand which is a strong field, again then stability will increase. Like for example, if you are taking CO, Cn minus, then again stability will increase. Okay, when compared to weak field ligands, strong field ligands will increase the stability of the complex in the solution. Now see this here, for example, we are having 2 like complexes, Cu NH3 taken 4 times plus 2. What is this? Tetraamine copper 2 complex. See this stability, 4 10 to the power of ln. See the second one, cyano complex. It is having higher strength. Okay, it is a strong field ligand. Now see this, 10 to the power of 27. Okay, so what we can conclude? Smaller the size of the ligand, greater the basic strength of the ligand. Okay, and also one more thing, if it is having if it is a strong field ligand, then definitely strength of the complex will increase in the solution. Now we can see the stability of the complex depending upon the chelate ring. So we already know, if a chelating ion, chelating ligand, if it is present, then definitely stability of the complex increases. For example, ethylene diamine, oxalate, see this here, what is there? Ethylene diamine is there. So definitely if you are comparing these two, if they are giving you in the examination, definitely it is highest. Okay, it is having highest stability constant when compared to this. For example, if they are giving you this has 2 into 10 to the power of 18, this has 2 into 10 to the power of, they are not mentioning. So what will we have? This will have definitely less than this value. Okay, so see the next one. We are going to discuss now advanced examples. Okay, so let's go into this topic now. Like whatever we studied till now, we will use it and we will discuss, right? Now see this. In an experiment, m grams of a compound X, gas or liquid or solid, taken in a container is loaded in a balance as shown in the figure. Okay, in the presence of a magnetic field, the pan with X is either deflected upwards, okay, figure 2, or deflected downwards, depending on the compound X. That is, they are saying whether it is a like a magnetic, paramagnetic or diamagnetic. Now we already know, if it is a paramagnetic complex compound, then what will happen? It will attract towards the magnetic field. Okay, if it is diamagnetic, it is attracted, it is repelled. Okay, it will, for example, if a magnet is placed below, it is diamagnet, then what it will do? It will repel. Now we will see the compounds and we will get to conclusion. Now see this, they gave you the 3 examples. See, we can see clearly, right? This is the magnet, it is going upwards. Now balancing in the absence of magnetic field, in the presence of magnetic field, downwards deflecting magnetic field presence. Okay, upwards magnetic field present. Now see this. Now see this question. See the options. X is H2O liquid, deflection of the pan is upwards. Yes, it is correct. it is a diamagnetic substance. When it is a diamagnetic substance, definitely deflection will take place, like opposite to the direction of the magnetic field. It is a correct option. Nice. Then what about B? If X is K4 Fe Cn6 solid, deflection of the pan is upwards. Yeah, it is true. There are no free electrons in that. There are no unpaired electrons. It is a diamagnetic substance. It is also correct. What about third one? If X is H2O2, deflection of pan is downwards. It is correct. It is a paramagnetic species. If X is C6H6, now see this, benzene. It is diamagnetic species. Deflection of pan is downwards. Wrong. So what are the answers? A, B, C are the answers. Now see the next question. For the octahedral complexes of Fe+3 in S-2, SCN- thiocyanate, okay, and Cn- ligand environment, the difference between the spin-only magnetic moment. So first of all, you should remember the formula for the spin-only magnetic moment, root of n into n+2 Bohr magneton. Okay, approximately near to. Difference they are asking. If you are taking octahedral complex of iron plus 3 with thiocyanate, okay, and Cn-. Now it is a weak field ligand. It is strong field ligand. Now Fe Cn6 3-. Here Fe SCN 6 3-. Okay. Now how many unpaired electrons are present in this? Now in both cases it is D6 only. Correct. Now how many unpaired electrons are there in this root of n into n+2 if you are applying here? In this case, pairing of electrons takes place against the Hund's rule. Okay. So how many electrons are there? Unpaired electrons 6 are there. Now if it is pairing, 5 are there. So if it is pairing against the Hund's rule, now what will be formed? D5. It will be like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now because of the presence of very strong field ligand, now what will happen? Pairing of electrons takes place. It will be like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now only one unpaired electron is there. What about this? In this case, it is a weak field ligand. No, pairing of electrons won't take place here. Okay. So how many unpaired electrons will be present? 5. No pairing. If you are applying the formula, what is the formula you have to apply? Root of n into n+2. If you are applying for first one, here we are having one unpaired electron, root of 1 into 1+2, we will get root 3, 1.4, around 1.4 Bohr magnetons. Now see this, what will we get for the first one? Square root of 3. So what is square root of 3? 1.7. So what about second one? We are having 5 into 5+2. So it is root 35. It is 5.9. They are not asking this. What they are asking? They are asking the difference. See this. They are asking the difference here. The difference between the spin-only magnetic moments. They are asking that. Now what is the difference between these two? 5.9 minus 1.7. It is 2. So what is the difference you will get? 4.2 Bohr magnetons. Right. Then see the next question. The correct statement regarding the binary transition metal carbonyl compounds are a total number of valence shell electrons at metal centers in a. Okay, first we will solve this. It is 16 or not, we will check. There are predominantly low spin in nature. We will see this also. Okay. So first we will check the first option. If you are taking iron pentacarbonyl CO5, right, and nickel tetracarbonyl NiCO4. Now if you are taking iron, how many unpaired electrons are present in the iron in the valence shell? it is 4:3d6. So total 8 are there, correct. CO, each CO, how many COs are there? We are having 5. Each CO gives how many electrons? 2. So 5 into 2, how much? 10, total 18. Now we will see this. Nickel, it is how much? 4:3d8. So that is how much? Total, how many electrons are there? 10, 4 are there. 4 into 2. So how many? 8 electrons. So 18. What is the statement they gave you earlier? Total number of valence shell electrons at metal centers in FeCO5 and NiCO4 is 16. Wrong. How much? 18. Gone. Then there are predominantly low spin in nature. Correct. These are low spin in nature. Correct. Why? CO is a very strong ligand. So definitely these are low spin complexes. It is 100% correct statement. In both cases we are taking CO only. Metal carbon bond strengthens when the oxidation state of the metal is lowered. Then we will see the fourth option. The carbonyl CO bond weakens when the oxidation state of the metal is increased. See, metal carbonyl bond strength when the oxidation state is lowered. See, in this case a synergic bond is present and the bond between the metal and carbon, okay, is really strengthened when the oxidation state is lowered. What is the oxidation state in the case of the carbonyl in the case of compounds, metal carbonyl compounds? Generally it is 0. Okay, it is 0 and these are very strong complexes. Okay, so metal carbon bond strengthens when the oxidation state of the metal is lowered. It is correct statement. The carbonyl CO bond weakens when the oxidation state of the metal is increased. No. Okay, it is not the correct statement. So what are the correct statements? Correct statements are option A and option C. These two are correct statements. Next, see the next one. Consider the following complex ions P, Q and R. We can see first one is having iron in the +3 oxidation state. Second one is having vanadium, it is in the +2 oxidation state. And third one we are having iron in the +2 oxidation state. Here important thing we have to see is the ligand. The ligand which we are taking here all are weak field ligands. So no need to think about the ligand, there is no need of pairing. So what you have to see here, only about their oxidation states and how many unpaired electrons are present. Now see, the correct order of the complex ions according to the spin only magnetic moment. We have to arrange them in the increasing order. Okay. Now see this. First, if you are saying first one, how many and what is the oxidation state of iron? Iron is in the +3 oxidation state. So how many unpaired electrons are there? Number of unpaired electrons are 5. If you are taking second one, vanadium, it is in +2 oxidation state. So how many unpaired electrons are there? Number of unpaired electrons are 3. If you are taking iron in +2 oxidation state, number of unpaired electrons are, how many are there? Here we are having 4. So if you are applying the spin only magnetic moment formula, then what will we get? Spin only magnetic moment is root of n into n + 2 Bohr magnetons. So for the first one, if you are applying for the first one, it is square root of 5 into 5 + 2. So that is square root of 35. It is around 5.9 Bohr magnetons. If you are taking for the second one, it is square root of 3 into 3 + 2. So it is square root of 15. It is around 3.4 Bohr magnetons. For third one, it is square root of 4 into 4 + 2. That is equal to square root of 24. It is around 4.7 Bohr magnetons. So we can easily understand that here Q is having less magnetic moment when compared to R and P is having highest. So B is the answer. So okay students, thank you.